They're the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they?
Sure.
But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate
Hi,
financial
Marie.
advice
How are you
to your
doing?
goals.
What do you want me to say?
What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So, what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242 435 037 or send us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Petra on social, and let's get started. Petra, achieve more.
Running payroll can be a strenuous task, so the last thing you want is an extra lengthy process to validate schedules and then make payments, only to be told the payment couldn't be identified or assigned to your staff. But validating schedules and payments for your staff's pension contributions shouldn't be that stressful. With Petra's self-service schedule validation, you can validate your monthly schedules with a few clicks right from the comfort of your seat in less than 3 minutes. It's so simple. Here is what you have to do. 1. Open your browser and visit members.petratrust.com. Enter your login credentials and then select Manage Employer and Validate. 2. To upload your schedule for validation. 3. After a successful validation, a report and payment advice will be sent to your email address. 4. Use the schedule ID on the payment advice as the bank account number when making payments at the bank, or as the reference if you are making payments via bank transfer. That's it. So simple. Please remember that every validated schedule will have a unique schedule ID, which will start with SI with a few other characters. Without this ID, the bank cannot accept your payments. So always look out for the unique schedule ID on the payment advice for payments. Experience convenience. If you require any assistance, click on the chat feature on our members portal or contact our client services team on phone at 024-243-5037 extension 4. Email clientservices@petratrust.com or contact your relationship manager. Petra, achieve more.
It's possible to achieve your financial goals. However, finding the right solution for your financial goals can be complicated. From finding the right investment to managing all your accounts with different providers or being able to fully track your transactions. So, we thought of making it simple for you. Whatever your goal may be, the Achieve app gives you the right support system to get you there. It provides you with easy access to the right financial products you need to realize your goals. The sign-up process is simple and without any stress. You're also able to grow your savings and investment with the DigiSave account. You can also monitor your transactions effectively. So, download the app now and do more with your cash.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they're the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate financial investment to attain your goals. What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So, what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242.
Hello. Welcome again to the final or the last episode in our series of webinars on the new investment guidelines. Now, if you stayed with us from the beginning in the past two preceding webinars, well done. I'm sure right now we've been able to demystify your fears and you're actually a pensions expert just like we are on everything when it comes to the new guidelines. But if this is your first time joining us, I'm wondering, where have you really been in the last two sessions? Where have you really been? But not to worry, here at Petra, we are committed to ensuring that you have all the information required to make the best decisions. So you can actually get all the other episodes on the new investment guidelines we had done before, which is the first one we talked about what the investment guidelines were. The second one we made mention of the options you have. You can actually get it when you go onto our YouTube page and type Petra Achieve. You can get all the other episodes just to view and then also educate yourself more on that. And here at Petra, we are an investment-focused institution that has been in the business of pensions planning and other financial advisory services over the last 10 years, and we've done that for over 300,000 people and counting. Now, we can't wait to have you as a member of our family. So after the webinar, you can go onto our website, www.petraonline.com, and you can see all the other solutions when it comes to investment and retirement that we have for our customers and then everyone at large. So today we are shooting live from our Nexus office at Airport West, and our topic would be around what the contact person needs to know or what the employer needs to know and the implications that are involved. And note that if you're joining us via Zoom or on Facebook Live or also on YouTube, when you go to Petra Achieve, you can leave your questions, your comments, and your concerns, whatever it is. We trust that this should be a very interactive and informative session. And so you can leave all your questions and we'll address them during the Q&A segment as well. Also, if you need someone to personally talk to, you can leave your name and your phone number. And as we did in the last webinar, we would like to know who we are communicating with. So please leave us with your name and then where you are contacting or watching us from. So once again, we'd like to appreciate your time with us. And before we go into today's topic, I'll just do a recap of what we've been discussing so far. So primarily, we have been talking about the new investment guidelines. And the major change in that is constituent funds, like constituencies, where people are put into groups based on their ages. And so we explored 4 different funds, where we talked about the moderately aggressive fund, that is for individuals between the ages of 15 to 44 years. And then we talked about the moderately conservative fund as well, that characterizes mostly individuals within the ages of 45 years to 54 years. Then we talked about the conservative fund. Now, the conservative fund is more or less like our preparing for retirement fund. And so that comprises people within the ages of 55 years to 60 years. So you know that in Ghana, early retirement starts from 55 to 59 years. In that 60 years, you're actually compulsorily required to retire. So that is the conservative fund. And then we had the aggressive fund, which you can only join by formal request. Now, when we say aggressive or we say conservative, it's not that we're not using or we're not investing your monies in anything, or aggressive, we're taking risks with your funds. We mentioned also that it has to do with the type of investments that are regulated by the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. And so we looked at 2 broad categorization: variable income funds or variable income assets, and also fixed income assets. And variable income assets, just by the name, it just means that the income or the interest you get from that particular fund waivers. It's not set. So when you go and buy a share from MTN today, you don't know whether you're getting 500, if you buy, let's say, 500 CDs worth of shares, you don't know whether you're going to get 250 CDs at the end of the year or 100 CDs at the end of the year. It's all dependent on how the organization performs or the institution you're investing in performs. And then when we say fixed income assets, they are investment vehicles that have or promise you a certain fixed rate. So when you buy a 91-day treasury bill at 17%, you know per annum, you know that after 91 days or after 3 months, you're getting a certain percentage of your funds as the interest. You're well and aware and you're sure of that. And so when we say moderately aggressive, moderately conservative, conservative and aggressive, they just vary in the percentages of fixed income assets and also of variable income assets that can be invested in that. And we made you also aware that as an employee, although you're a contact person watching this, you're definitely employed by an organization. So as an employee as well, you also have a right to choose. So you can actually switch in between funds. You can actually decide that I can move between a particular fund into another fund. The only fund we realized you cannot move into or move out of is the conservative fund. So once you're in a conservative fund, based on your age, you can't really move out of it. You're just there till you go towards retirement. And if you're in a moderately aggressive or a moderately conservative fund, you equally cannot move into a conservative fund. So those are some of the things we talked about in our past 2 webinars on getting to know what the investment vehicles were and then also what your options are. We'll take a quick break from here, and when we come back, I'll introduce my panelists and we'll begin today's discussion on what you as the employer or as a contact person needs to know about the new investment guidelines.
It's possible to achieve your financial goals. However, finding the right solution for your financial goals can be complicated. From finding the right investment to managing all your accounts with different providers or being able to fully track your transactions. So, we thought of making it simple for you. Whatever your goal may be, the Achieve app gives you the right support system to get you there. It provides you with easy access to the right financial products you need to realize your goals. The sign-up process is simple and without any stress. You're also able to grow your savings and investment with the DigiSave account. You can also monitor your transactions effectively. So, download the app now and do more with your cash.
And welcome back from that short break. So we're going straight to business, and today, as I mentioned, we'll be discussing what you as the employer or the contact person needs to be aware of when it comes to these changes in the new investment guidelines. And to help me explore the topic, I have 2 new panelists. Again, I seem to always have amazing people coming on my set. So I have 2 new panelists that I'll move over to them and have them introduce themselves and tell you what they do here at Petra. And by the name, my name is, and has always remained, Sarah, and I will be your moderator for this session. So to my immediate right, we have...
Thank you very much, Sarah. My name is Kennedy Smith, and I'm the head of relationship management in Petra.
And today I have a lady here, so Kennedy, you're at our mercy, and we have...
My name is Teni Albosa. I am head of client service operations at Petra.
I'm sure a lot of people have seen Teni Amosa's name on the email, so this is the Teni Amosa in person. Gentlemen and lady, you're very welcome to this afternoon's session.
Thank you.
And just to set the ball rolling, Kennedy, so as a contact person, an employer for my organization, or if you are an employer for an organization, speaking to employers today, what are the things that you think they should be mindful of when it comes to these new investment guidelines?
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. Once again, greetings to all our able contact persons who have joined us today. We are privileged to have you on board. So when it comes to the implications that has on employer or contact persons that we do interact with, the first and foremost is that there will be information sharing, right? As per the guidelines, one of the major information that is required is the date of birth, so that you'll be able to categorize the people based on the fund type. So what it means is that as an employer, it will be required that you gather data for us, so that we'll be able to categorize these people based on the requirements as per the guidelines. In addition to that, there are some implication which has to do with the returns. When it comes with the returns for one fund, it will definitely differ from one fund to the other because of the variable income and the fixed income dynamics that you mentioned, right? So when that happens, it means that as an employer, you need to be abreast with these changes so that when your employee walk up to you, you should be able to at least explain. So I'm sure as we go along today, we'll touch on some of the things that you can say when you get to some of those concerns. And one of many of the implication also that will happen is that definitely a lot of people will walk up to contact persons, right, to ask for redress on certain things that they do not understand. So it will require that you have some sort of knowledge around the entire guidelines, at least a summary of that. And Petra will help with those empowerments so that at least contact persons will be abreast to be able to address these concerns when they come up.
That's great. So then it means that there's going to be a request for data from people because it's basically going to be on the ages.
Exactly.
When you're default putting people into schemes, it's based on age. So
that's true.
As we've been always saying, don't give your football age, or make sure that people give you the age they've given to SNIT or the date of birth that is actually right. And for Tini, what else would change? I mean, people send you schedules every month. What else would change about that?
Okay. So today the schedule validation process as we know it will remain the same. Okay. We want to make this transition as seamless as possible for our contact person. Hence the current process that we have where they upload the schedule on our members portal, validate, get a code to make payments will remain the same. And we want to assure them that we have their best interests at heart, and so we do not want them to find this whole transition painful.
Okay, so basically that's good news for you.
Yeah.
You still go through the same validation. You don't have to validate for those between in Fund 1 or Fund 2. It's still the same validation. And Petra has all the systems in place seamlessly to ensure that funds are allocated to people according to where they belong. So just circling back again to data, who can provide the data and how can they be provided to Petra?
So today, both the employer or the contact person and the employee can provide the data. Okay. For the contact persons, they can do that for the entire organization. So they collate the information and they can send that to our client services team via our client services at petraonline.com email address, and we would update the information on their behalf. For employees as well, we can do that directly for them. So contact persons can sensitize their staff members to submit this information to us via our members portal or via our USSD shortcode. On members portal, for those of you who are not aware of it, the URL is members.petraonline.com, and for our USSD shortcode, *447 *70#, and then you can follow the prompt.
Okay, all right. So either the employee can send the information or the employer can equally send the information to us. So it's fairly easy. You can have your data and then you would be appropriately assigned a group. So to Kennedy, so when it comes to switching, I mean, it's been something people have asked in almost every webinar. We've made them aware that you have the option to switch. When it comes to switching, what is the role of the contact person watching us today if an employee needs to switch?
Okay, so I think as you rightly put it, it's a formal request, right, that you need to put in if you want to switch. And I'm sure as we addressed in the previous webinars, you can only switch once, all right, in a year. If you're switching multiple times, it comes with a fee yet to be determined by the NPRA. Now, for an employee can send a request, a formal request, directly through any of our channels, whether through the members portal and or designated email that we will share when we complete the process that will be involved in the switching. We will share those information to employees as well as the contact persons. The role that the contact person will play in here is, because they are the primary people that we deal with and they are the primary people that an employee will walk to in the organization, you have a role of getting to understand what the process entails or getting them to make the right decisions. So if somebody comes in and wants to switch from one fund to the other, as a contact person, you should be in a position to be able to advise if you think that the switch is not advisable at that moment of time. Because this is an investment decision, and some people might not make that decision based on the knowledge that they might not have a full flesh of information, right? So the role is that you need to know more to be able to advise and give that support to the employees. It could be that you can also gather, maybe there are some organizations that they like to centralize how they deal with their third parties. So if that's the case, you can also have a process in place where you collate those applications, then you forward them to us. then we get them through the SLA for it to be executed for the members of the scheme.
Okay, so then you're basically saying that, yes, you can switch, and the employer needs to be aware that they have a role to play, even in advising people, letting them know that, yes, you might want to switch at this time. I think in previous webinars, you mentioned that you needed to look at your investment philosophy and your risk appetite. So in terms of making those switches and employer advising them, how are we empowering the employer to be able to take that step?
So, as Petra, one of the things that we take very, let me say, serious about is the partnership that we have with the employers. We try to get them to be knowledgeable concerning the investment that we manage for them. So in our channel, in the relationship management team, the team that I lead, the RMs have a mandate of every quarter going to these employers. It could be a management committee, oversight committee, it could be just the finance team or the HR team that we deal with. And the main purpose of the meeting is to share with them the performance of the scheme or performance of the investment that they have with us. And in that session, we try to share information, all right? And that is one of the main medium that we're going to use to empower these employers. And as part of our rapport building and engagement through our meetings also with contact persons, it's one of the key topics that we've decided to talk about, so that if they have any concerns, because today we might meet them, but they may not have all the questions answered. So if they have any concerns through our meetings, the RMs are empowered to be able to extend that support to the contact persons. And we'll also be bringing up, run some webinars, as we're doing today. We'll be doing a lot of webinars where we'll be putting contact persons together to be able to help them to understand some of the development within the industry. And this is one of the key things that we'll be touching on in this coming year. So there is a lot put in place to be able to ensure that these contact persons are well empowered to be able to serve the employees.
Great. Anthony, so when he talks about switching, which we all know it's an option, and the fact that the cost for switching is not yet determined, to be determined by the regulator, who actually bears the cost when it comes to switching?
Okay, so switching is obviously an individual affair. The individual, depending on their age or depending on the choice that they made, would be put into a certain constituent fund. And so they would need to bear that cost.
So then the cost for switching, if you decide that you want to switch several times, you actually bear that cost. And so if you're watching us, either on any of the media by Zoom or on Facebook Live or on YouTube at Petra Achieve, please leave your questions in your comments and we shall address them during the Q&A session as well. And if you also have any further questions and you would like for us to help you with the training we're speaking about today, you can email bizdev@petraonline.com or relationshipmanagement@petraonline.com, and then a representative will get back to you to schedule a training for you or your staff members. So moving on, and I'm coming back to you, Tini. Yes, so if I'm a contact person, for those that are watching, what are the changes I should be aware of to manage the expectation? You've touched a bit on returns and validation and all that. What are the changes I should be aware of?
Okay, so I think that today most of our employers are used to receiving statements on a quarterly basis from us at Petra. And today, if you joined a company at the same time, let's say with the same contribution amount, you are likely to end up with the same return on your statements. What the new guidelines mean, or what would happen, is that you can have the same two people joining at the same time, but maybe in different constituent funds. And so obviously, because of the different investment objectives and the risk, you mentioned the variable and fixed income assets and all that. So based on those things that happen within those funds, the investment returns for each of these employees would be different, and would like to assure them that it would not be an error. It's just because of the different funds or constituent funds that they find themselves in, and so they would likely see different investment returns on their statements.
Yes, so don't be alarmed, because you may see some changes. And I think we established that depending on the type of fund and how the assets are arranged, the changes might not be too significant, but obviously you're not someone's age. You have different or different focuses, whatever you might be looking at. Are those the only changes someone should look at, Kennedy?
Well, so in addition to what Tini touched on, which is major, that is returns. I'm very particular about engagement, right? There may be changes in how people interact with their employers when it comes with their pensions. Today, because maybe it's part of one fund, all right, and we do extend some communication to the employees directly, where we send them statements, if they have questions, they can reach out to our customer service team and what have you. Today, there might be less interaction between the employees and the employers if all things being equal. But because this is new and change brings a lot of I want to know more, right? So employers should just, or contact persons should just be ready that employees will walk up to them to ask for questions. But when that happens, please don't be alarmed. That is why the relationship management team and the client service outlets are all available. Just reach out to us through the emails that Sarah mentioned, and we will reach out, and maybe if it's a lot of people, we will take up and train them and get them to ask the questions that they are asking. One of the major change also has to do with the statements, right? If you get your statement, and for example, right, maybe we've not come up with the full process, but if, for example, there are some changes on your statement, I know how people are particular about the information they receive from finance houses. So if, for example, there'll be some change in design or change in the way, the outlook of the statement, please feel free to reach out if you're not comfortable with it, all right? So that we'll be able to address them for you.
Yes, so I was actually even about to come to that. If people should expect a change in their statements, I think you've done well, but is there anything you'd like to add to that? Or this is still being considered and being changed at Petra? So.
Yes, I think that we're still doing, there are some internal considerations. As much as possible, we do not want the statements to be so foreign to the individuals. We still want it to be simple enough to be understood by them. So we'll factor that into our considerations and make sure that it's as simple and easy to understand as possible.
That's great. So you might see some changes in the returns of your employees as the contact person. You need to be aware of that and know that these are coming up as a result of the different funds that you are part of. So if you missed our previous two webinars, as I've mentioned earlier, you can always catch it on our YouTube page, Petra Achieve. You can see the two earlier webinars we talked about when it comes to the divisions or the recategorizations in terms of investing in constituent funds. The second thing, as they have mentioned here, is that your statements may not look the same way as it used to look like. And that is because we have people in different funds. And you as the contact person as well, you need to be well abreast with information so that when people come to you and they ask questions, you are able to answer and help them. And it's okay if you feel a little bit uneasy about that. That's why we're here, and that's why we are Petra. As Kennedy has mentioned, his team, which is the relationship management team, is ever poised to help train you and your employees on this. So we'll be expecting to get a lot of calls from you after this webinar so that they can come in and just help you understand all that these constituent funds are about. So we'll take one question and we'll go for a break, and then when we come back for the break, we'll take the questions you have been putting in the Q&A segments on each of the media you have joined us on. And so this question is, how can I take advantage of this new regime as an employer?
Well, this is a very good question for, I'm sure, all our audience who are watching us today. For every change, for every move, there are positives and negatives. What we are saying is that there are a lot of positives for this particular regime or this particular guideline. And it's not just to the employees, but even to the companies. The first one has to do with being the employer of choice. If today you do not have conversations with your employees on their pensions, because Petra is doing a good job, which we are already doing, and we know that we're doing a good job in ensuring that the employees understand all the things that goes on with their pensions. This will give you the opportunity to give them the impression that you care about their retirement beyond what you're doing with Petra. So the more you explain things to them as a contact person, the more you're able to address some issues. It gives them that certainty that you care about their retirement and their future. And that is the level that, for us as Petra, we want to empower our contact persons so that they'll be able to offer that support services to their employees, so that employees will see them as the employer of choice. The second benefit also has to do with the data that will be shared with us. So today, it might be that you do not have the date of birth of your employees, and it might be for a good reason, right? Or maybe you're having challenges collating them. Because this move mandates all employers and contact persons to be able to gather this data for us. We think that information is very important, and we think that beyond we using this information, this date of birth information, the employer can also use it for any other purposes within the organization. It could be that you would like to know the people that will retire this year to take strategic decisions. It could be that you would like to know the people that you want to celebrate their birthdays. All right, so those are some of the indirect benefits that this will bring to the employer and the contact person, to be specific. So we'd like to encourage that when we share the process as a contact person, please, as you always do, try as much as possible to be involved and share this information with us, and we are here to support you to be able to help us too.
Great. So as an employer, if you want to be the bevy of everyone else or the envy of all other organizations when it comes to how you treat your employees, you need to have this information. This is the advantage you can get from the new investment guidelines. All these changes, you are abreast with information, and then you have the front row seat when it comes to answering questions on anything that involves the new constituent funds. And Petra is here to also help you go through that. Again, employee biodata is very, very important. And especially in this era where by July 1st, we're going to be using Ghana cards just to identify people as their STEM numbers. You as the employer need to have your employee date of births and IDs, everything in place. And so this is a good time for you to go back and then do all that data collection so that you are abreast with all these things, and then when changes have to happen, we need to make decisions on behalf of your employees, you can actually do that. Now, before we even go for a break, I just remembered one question that I think that a lot of people asked. So we're saying that all these things are going to help you, the employer. What is really in it for Petra in terms of your fees? How do all these switch costs and things affect your scheme fees?
So today, Petra's fee is fixed, and we do know that the fee is determined by the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, and we should not go above the 1.33 that is set as trustee fees. And so this would not impact the fees or the scheme fees that we currently have today. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much, Tammy, for
welcome.
that. So Petra is not making any extra on all this. We're just committed to having you have the right tools to make the right decisions. And as employers, we know that you don't have a lot of time, and that's why the final concluding episode in the series of webinars for the new investment guidelines is a little short today. And so we'll go for a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll take the questions that we received, and then we can all call it a day from here. Thank you.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they're the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate financial investment to attain your goals. What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242 435-037 or send us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Petra on social, and let's get started. Petra, achieve more.
So we're back from our short break, and we understand that as contact persons, you actually have just a little time. So we wanted to make this very quick so that you can go back to your core businesses that you're already running. And so one thing from the questions we've received so far when we went on break, the first one that we have is when is this new pensions changes taking effect?
Okay. So as much as possible, we would like it to go live by the end of this year. The NPRA has instructed that all schemes begin to work on this by July, and so we're working with end of this year as the timeline.
End of this year as the timeline.
Yes.
And then the next one, will the process for schedule validation change?
No. As I mentioned, the current process that you have will remain the same. And we also mentioned that we do not expect you to segregate your employees into the various constituent funds before you do validation. So if you submit one schedule every month for your staff, that process will still be the same for you.
Okay. Now this is somebody that's really asking an interesting question. Will the fees be charged on the scheme? So if they are in a tier 2 scheme, yes, just to also reiterate, this is compulsory for second tier, tier 2 schemes, and it's a little voluntary for tier 3. Now, will the fees be charged on the scheme or the employee? So who bears, when it comes to the charges, does the employee bear the charge, or does the scheme that I am part of bear the charge when it comes to switching? Yeah.
Okay, so for the fees for multiple movements, for those ones, is the employee that bears the charge. It's not the scheme.
All right.
I don't think it will be in the scheme of things. It will be so unfair that one individual is doing multiple movements and creating a lot of costs, and another person is bearing the cost. But it will be the individual initiating to bear the charge.
Okay. And can you reiterate the types of constituent funds? You can actually get this from our previous videos, but we would be so nice and then just talk about it again. So any of you can take that, the types of funds.
Okay, so we have 4 funds. Fund 1 is a moderately aggressive fund that is for persons aged between 15 to 44 years. The moderately conservative, which is from 45 to 54. And then the third fund, which is the conservative, which is for people aged between 55 to 60 years. And then the fourth fund, which is the aggressive fund, which is only by formal request.
Okay, so there are 4 fund types: moderately aggressive, moderately conservative, conservative, and aggressive, which is only by formal request. Yes. Okay, so I'm sure we've helped you if you ask that question. Where can employees access information on this new arrangement? Kennedy.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. So we will put the guidelines on our website so that people can actually access we've also decided to put it on our members portal. So if you're a contact person and you know that some of your employees have not signed on to the members portal, please ensure that they do, because we'll be sharing a lot of information on the portal as well with infographics. And we'll keep the feed from these webinar series that we've organized on YouTube, so that you can go there and access and learn more about these guidelines.
But he mentioned the portal. I think he gave us the address for the portal.
Yes.
What can people do on the portal so that it can interest them to go there?
So we have a whole list of items or functions that you can perform as a contact person and as an employee. So as a contact person today, you can log in, you can view your accounts as an individual, first of all, and you can log in as the employer and view contributions for the organization. You can also validate your schedule. You can submit information on behalf of your employees. If you want to create a new employee for your organization, you can do so via our members portal. You can send us tickets for your requests or your complaints. You can view contributions and returns on the members portal. You can also chat with us if, as an employee, via live chat, there's a small portion at the bottom of the members portal page that you can chat with us live as well. So there are a number of things. If you're a Savings Booster customer, you can also make a request for a redemption on your account. We're working to be able to open that up to the other schemes that you belong to.
Oh, great. So you can do a lot of things and send tickets and even chat with someone like the way you'd have chatted with them on WhatsApp and have your concerns. So that makes life very, very easy. And just to remind you, if you're watching us on Zoom especially, we have a survey there. We appreciate your feedback. That's what makes us do what we're doing better. And so please take the survey and let us know what you feel about this, and then how quickly, or whatever comments or recommendations you'd have to give us. So back to our questions, and on our 7th question for today, we have, how can we be equipped to deal with the issues of returns that employees would raise?
Okay, thank you very much. So as I indicated earlier, for our channel for where we share information on the performance of the scheme, the RMs will be coming in to do that. But beyond that, one of the things that we want to also empower contact persons that may not have one reason or the other, may have interacted with the RMs because they are okay with the services. We'll be sharing a lot of information on the performance of the funds, so that you'll be able to be abreast to at least address some of the concerns that the employees will raise.
Okay, so there are relationship managers around that can visit you on your request and help you understand why the differences are occurring, so you can be well equipped to help your employees deal with the questions that will come up when it comes to returns. And number 8, how can we deal with employees' unwillingness to be put in any particular fund?
I think that we do not have a choice. To put it simply, we do not have a choice. So these are guidelines that are coming from the regulator, and the regulator, who has the best interest of every scheme member at heart, has requested or is requiring that we put individuals based on their age into different constituent funds. Now, mind you, this is supposed to help you based on your the investment objectives, the risk tolerance as well. As you near retirement, obviously you cannot be put into risky assets, and so these are actually supposed to help you retire in a better position. And so for those who do not want to be put in any fund, I think the information or the information that we need to let them understand is that it is for their best interest. Yeah.
And if you decide not to choose, or the employee is even unwilling, default, like Sydney said, simple as that, you can't do anything about it. So you'll be forced into a fund based on your age. However, if you are much willing, or your employees understand that they can actually make a decision, they can move from a fund that is more moderately aggressive to a moderately conservative fund. So they need to understand it for their best interest. And does this affect employees whose retirement is imminent? I think it's just a follow-up from what you said, so Kennedy. Does this affect employees whose retirement is imminent? I'm guessing people who are 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, or 59, 11 months. Does this affect them? And then if yes, what can they do?
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So, yes, as per the guidelines, the last but one fund, that's the Fund 3, is meant for people who are nearing retirement. So, yes, it affects them. However, for those ones, they don't have a choice because you are getting close to your retirement. So, it will be done. But just that what we are willing to do is to let you understand. We have as in Petra, through the employer, we have what we call the retirement planning session, where if people are nearing retirement, you invite the relationship managers, then they'll come in and walk your employees through what to expect, so that if they want to make any investment decisions, we have a lot of products available that can help you to do that. So they walk you through that retirement planning exercise. And in that segment, one of the things we are inserting is to get people to understand what this constituent fund is all about, so that if we are putting them in very conservative fund, which is a fund 3, at least they will appreciate the reason why they are in there. So there's little that if you are getting close to retirement, you can do. Your funds are being protected for good reason.
Okay. Now, final question to Tini. How will individual contributions of funds and profits or income be? So how will the, so I guess it's how will the interest earned be allocated based on individual basis?
Okay, so today the process for sharing returns or the proceeds on investments is that everybody's in a pool. The investments are made and the proceeds are shared across the various funds, basically. So that will be a similar process for this. So if you belong to, for example, a moderately conservative fund, whatever investments are done, once the proceeds come in, it will be shared across evenly. Yes, based on how much you put in. Okay. Yes.
Yes. All right, that's great. So it's a proportionate sharing scheme. So these were the questions that we received for today's webinar, and I'm sure the contact persons watching have learned a lot from that Petra is ever ready to stand by you and help you understand what you need to tell your employees so that you don't have any concerns or any, I don't know, I'm in this fund, I came with this person, why are they getting more interest than I am? But before we go, are there any final words you'd like for employers to know? I'll take each from you.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank all contact persons who made time to join us. We'd like to really appreciate the correspondence you keep having with us. We know this might not be your core business, but for some of you spend a lot of time with the RMs and even client service team on phone, trying to get issues sorted out. We know we give you a lot of trouble, but the trouble is for the betterment of the employees, and we appreciate that effort that you put in. I would like to end by saying that there are a lot of products that we're coming up in this coming year, before the year ends, and it will interest you to know that it will help you to make a very good decision for your retirement and for your future. So please keep glued to your emails. If we invite you for webinars, it could be a product sharing, information sharing webinar. So please feel free to reach out to us if we share such information with you. And I believe that we'll be a great partner, a financial partner to all your employees. Thank you very much.
And our lady?
It appears Kennedy has given the vote of thanks already. But I would like to reiterate that for our contact persons who are working on providing us with the date of birth information, we would really appreciate it if we can get this information by the end of this month, so that we can start to do the allocations for the various funds. And like he said, we would like to appreciate you for all that you do for us and on behalf of your employees for the last couple of years. We also have a survey from our Zoom, those who have joined us via Zoom, and we would really appreciate it if you can complete the survey for us. Also, as part of the work that we're doing on a national level, we do know that we are collating NIA information. People have been asked to register for their NIA card, and Petra as a financial institution as well would need that information. And so would like to ask that even as you collate the date of birth information, you also include the NIA information and submit to Petra. Please do not forget to include the employee's name and Petra ID or SNID number when submitting the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm actually going to do the proper vote of thanks. I'm taking that back from Kennedy. But as you've heard them say in today's webinar, the last part in the 3-part series on the new investment guidelines, we really need data from you here at Petra. And so please just give us the data when we decide to come to you either via mail or through your allocated relationship managers. We'll be taking the Ghana card IDs as well. So this is a good time because in 1 week we are in June, and in July we can't use your SNIT number or your SNIT numbers anymore. So give us the names of your employees, give us their SNIT IDs, give us their Petra IDs if you're very familiar with that. You can actually get that from the members portal, like Tini told us about all the amazing things you can do there. And then the date of birth. So you'd realize that in the next few weeks, Petra will be coming to you to request for a lot of information on these things. It would be very grateful if you could help us. Again, just to remind you, please take the survey before you leave if you're on the Zoom link. It helps us to know if we are reaching the goals we have set for this webinar. And leave your comments and your commendations or your phone numbers if you wish to be contacted and further spoken to. We learned in today's webinar that there are a lot of implications for the employer, you the employer watching us from your office. And that is to get the right details on your employees to Petra, and also understand that there could be an incidence in changes in return. So depending on the fund somebody is in compared to the fund someone else is in, there could be some changes in the returns. We've explained why that could happen in this webinar, and we'd still like to direct you to our YouTube page so you can watch the other ones about the options people have, the movements they can make. So these are some of the changes that you as an employer, you need to be aware of. You need to know that people can also move in between funds. The only fund that does not accept any movement once you are in there is the conservative fund, which is for people between the ages of 55 years to 60 years. And so these are some of the things that you need to be aware of as an employer when it comes to the new investment guidelines. And we'll come your way again with another set of webinar episodes. So keep yourselves glued to our social media handles. We shall bring you again more information. But in the meantime, we'd like to conclude the 3-part webinar series on the new investment guidelines here. My name is Sarah Ayi, and I have been doing this with Kennedy Smith, who is the head of relationship management, and also Tenia Musa, who's the head of client services and operations here at Petra. And we're hoping to see you again at another time. Until then, stay safe and don't do what we wouldn't do. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they are the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate financial investment to attain your goals. What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So, what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242 435 037 or send us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Petra on Social, and let's get started. Petra, achieve more.
Running payroll can be a strenuous task, so the last thing you want is an extra lengthy process to validate schedules and then make payment, only to be told the payment couldn't be identified or assigned to your staff. But validating schedules and payments for your staff's pension contributions shouldn't be that stressful. With Petra's self-service schedule validation, you can validate your monthly schedules with a few clicks right from the comfort of your seat in less than 3 minutes. It's so simple. Here is what you have to do. 1. Open your browser and visit members.petratrust.com. Enter your login credentials and then select Manage Employer and Validate. 2. To upload your schedule for validation. 3. After a successful validation, a report and payment advice will be sent to your email address. 4. Use the schedule ID on the payment advice as the bank account number when making payments at the bank, or as the reference if you are making payment via bank transfer. That's it. So simple. Please remember that every validated schedule will have a unique schedule ID, which will start with SI with a few other characters. Without this ID, the bank cannot accept your payments. So always look out for the unique schedule ID on the payment advice for payments. Experience convenience. If you require any assistance, click on the chat feature on our members portal or contact our client services team on phone at 024-243-5037 extension 4. Email clientservices@petratrust.com or contact your relationship manager. Petra, achieve more.
It's possible to achieve your financial goals.